Welcome back to Prime Morning. My name is Esiedua Akumia, and it's time for a very great conversation. Inclusive education. What is it that you know about inclusive education? What is it that you've heard about inclusive education? To my little knowledge of inclusive education, where opportunity, equal opportunities in education and learning is given to all students. I hope the definition that I've given you gives you a fair idea of exactly what the conversation is about. But the experts are seated with me this morning. We are going to delve into the philosophy, the facts, and the practical aspect of inclusion education, focusing most importantly on learners with disability. And so this morning, I have seated with me Nanama Mensah, who is the Deputy Director and Head for Inclusive Education Unit, Ghana TVET Service. Good morning, how are you? All right, and then I have also with me Jalil Odum. Jalil Odum is Executive Director, Inclusion Ghana. Good morning, Jalil. Good morning. Jalil. Yes. Jalil Odum. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well.
All right. And we'll be joined via Zoom pretty shortly by Professor Samuel K. Hayford, Department of Special Education, University of Education, Winneba. When he joins, we'll definitely get the conversation rolling on his part as well. But then before that, although I have given just the surface, the top part of explaining inclusive or inclusion education, Jalil is going to delve deeper into that for us, won't you? Yes, so kindly help us really understanding what inclusion education is.
Okay, so inclusive education, just before I explain what it is, I'll explain what it is not. I think that when you started, your opening remarks, you were talking about, learners with disabilities. Yes. Definitely, it is one of the things that we always want to explain, to the public or to many that it is not just about learners with disabilities. It's about all those who have special educational needs. Yeah. And so you could have a child who is not staying with their biological, parents. Okay. And when they go to school, these are people that they need some special needs. And so you need to take care of it. There's a child who is epileptic, or a child who has sickle cell, right, and they have special educational needs. And so when they're in the classroom, they need that kind of support. So it is not just about learners with disabilities, but also the fact that, some people assume that the fact that you have a child with disability and you've taken that child to a special school, it means that that child has been given some education, and so it is inclusive. It's not. It's not. And then again, you have, in some cases where there are some 2 or 3 classroom blocks in a very big mainstream school, yes, and then they are educating some children with, disabilities in there. Yeah. People assume it is inclusive education. It's not.
It's broader than that.
It's broader than that. Yeah. No, it's definitely not. It's an integrated school. The other one is a special school. Okay. Now, what inclusive education is an educational system that includes all learners, accepts and also supports all learners, no matter their background. Right. So whether they have a disability, whether they have some linguistic challenge, whether they come from this region or from this religion, or maybe they have, poor background, it does not matter. We're looking at all learners and making sure that they are supported. The primary aim of inclusive education is to make sure there's access, there's participation, and there is learning, and making sure that there are equal opportunities for all learners.
All learners. We've been joined by Zoom, Professor Hayford, but before we get into it, Jalil, I want you to tell us the importance, and then we go to Professor Hayford. Yeah, the
importance is because we want equity. We want equal opportunities for all learners. Because, for instance, when coming to Joy Prime, and I'm sorry to use Joy Prime, but I mean, I was wondering how, a learner with wheelchair was going to come up here.
Yeah.
It means that they can make it here. So it's very important that we consider all of these things. And so for a learner not being able to access a classroom, that is a very big barrier. So the aim is to make sure that we're given equal opportunities in access, in participation, and in learning.
All right. Professor Hayford, can you hear me?
Very well.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the inclusion education policy. When was that introduced in Ghana?
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone that was listening. The policy, as we have, was introduced in 2015.
Yeah.
When the then minister consulted with the cabinet and had it endorsed. Hello?
Yes, sir. We are listening.
Yeah, and we have the policy endorsed. And so we started using the policy in 2015. But prior to that, we need to understand that we didn't just get the policy out of the blue. It came through a piloted model, 6 of them for over a period of 10 years. And we finally put together the evidence from these models that we piloted in order to establish our policy to be workable for the country.
Okay, Prof, can you hold on? Can you kindly move back a little because we are not seeing your full face? Yes, great. That's it. All right. Kindly go ahead.
Yeah. So as I said, yeah, yes, I said that we adopted or endorsed the policy of inclusion in 2015. But before the 2015 endorsement, Ghana, through the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service then, piloted 6 models of inclusion for over 10 years. And these models were supported by our development partners. And so after over 10 years of piloting, we put together the evidence that we gathered from all these models to inform the drafting of the IE policy for 2015.
Okay. Now, the next question would be the implementation of these policies. I've actually gone through it myself. I've seen where we have, Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education shall liaise with the Ministry of Health and Ghana Service to take the lead role in collaboration with assessment. We also have Ministry of Finance playing a role in there, the Ministry of Transport playing a role. And so at the end of the day, so far, since it was adopted in 2015, what would you say has been the implementation for a successful policy?
Thank you so much. When you talk about implementation of policies, particularly the policy of inclusion, you have to appreciate the enormity of what goes into such implementation. And so we need to understand that, yes, the first policy, which has been reviewed and waiting for endorsement, ensure that we didn't bite too much that we could not chew and swallow. And so we did it in such a way that we were gradually moving towards what we call the full inclusion by indicating that for that time, we will concentrate on the moderate and then the mild cases. Yes. And when we use that model, we were able to achieve certain successes. And based on these successes, we have now reviewed the policy to make it all inclusive.
Okay.
Which means those with severe to profound and all types of disabilities, including other circumstances in life, have the right to be educated in their community schools. And as we are saying, because we know that it is not just easy to implement, we ensure that, look, training of teachers is key. Development of inclusive curriculum is key.
Yeah.
Looking for resources that will enable teachers to perform is key. Undertaking research and ensuring that you disseminate the findings of research to improve practice is key. And so all these instances that I've mentioned have been put in place, that in the universities, particular universities where we train teachers, a lot of research activities are going on.
Okay.
When it comes to the ordinary schools, you have continuous staff professional development or staff development, which includes developing the abilities and skills of teachers. And so wherever and whichever agency that will be involved in the implementation, we have started massive education and consultations to ensure that come 2024 ending, when this policy, the review policy is endorsed, we shall have smooth implementation.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Professor Hayford. Nanama, in the policy, I noticed that families have a role to play in there. Schools have a role to play. The nation as a whole has a role to play as well. And so how does it benefit every single person that is a partaker of this?
Okay, thank you so much. Inclusive education actually, let me say, aligns with the human rights that we are all observing. So it means that every child has a right to education, has a right to life, has a right to all the social amenities that everyone else enjoys. And as Jalil talked about, we are talking about access for every child.
Yeah.
So it means that no child should be left behind in accessing education, irrespective of the person's background, where the person stays, where the person is located. So it means that just like any other child, a child with special needs should be able to be in school and should not be left behind just because of the person's disabilities. So it behoves of us as society, as education implementers, to ensure that each child is able to access education. It also means that as a community, how do we ensure that no child is left behind, is not able to go to school just because a person has a disability? For parents who have children with disability or have special needs, knowing that the society, the school system is receptive to their children is very comforting, that they are not discriminated against, they are not stigmatized. When a parent knows that my child can be in school and is accepted just like any other child, is not looked down upon, is so comforting. I remember, when my kids were young and they were in their nursery, the school had one special needs child who had cerebral palsy, and the headmistress, the teachers, and everyone there, the students are actually conscientized and oriented to accept this child.
That's great.
And they supported that child so much so that she was able to actually finish nursery and she was able to move on.
Wow.
Currently, where my children are, there's one child who is autistic, and it's amazing, and I realized that I had to work on my daughter because of her attitudes, her behavior, and I had to explain to her that she's special. And she was like, Mommy, but I'm also a special person.
Right.
So I took time to explain to her that this is how she is, and this is how you are able to live with her. So when society also understands, the school system, the peers are able to understand that this is somebody who is part of us, probably just behaves differently. And the school system also realizes that this is a special, that's why we call them students with special education needs. They just have to go an extra mile, put in an extra effort just so that that child can also access education comfortably. That is all the effort. And when we put all these measures in place, you realize that as a nation, we'll be able to get, we'll get what we are supposed to get from each and every person, irrespective of the person's disability or inability. So that is what we are pushing for, that it's advantageous to everyone, to the children with disabilities, to parents, the family, and the nation as a whole, that no one is left behind in the workforce. I mean, somebody you think might be visually impaired, but you'll be amazed the kind of, you know, input the person would make if only we create, you know, a reason,
environment,
environment for such a person.
Yes, great. Professor Hayford, coming back to you, with the example that Nanama just cited in relation to a child with a special needs being in a regular school, if that's how I'm permitted to put it that way, would you say that there is any evidence in relation to the fact that learners with disabilities are doing well, are participating okay when it comes to opportunities like this, or being amongst, or being in schools like these? Is there anything like that? Any evidence to show?
Thank you so much. When we talk about hard evidence, I will just call on Ghanaians, those who are closer to Okwapiman Secondary School. Please visit the school.
Okay.
Those that are close to Ghana National College, Cape Coast, please visit the school. If you are closer to Mauli Secondary School, Senior High, please visit the school. And a number of others. When you visit these schools, the evidence are there for you. Whereby some years back at Okwapiman, the head prefect of the school, the girl's head prefect of the school, was a girl with visual impairment.
Wow.
He was so good that the school, through the student body, decided to make her the guest prefect. If you go to places like the National Council on Persons with Disabilities, there's a young man there who completed the university and he's doing his master's or so, about to finish. The point is this: if they cannot perform, how could he have risen up to that level? We have instances where somebody who is deaf has gone through and is now a lawyer. And in this country, we don't have any special school that trains lawyers with disabilities. And so the point is, how did he get it? And so if he didn't start from the scratch, which is the basic school, he couldn't have gotten up there. And nobody should tell me that all these individuals that I'm citing went through special schools. Not all of them went through special schools. A lot of them went through the inclusive setups that we started. And so we have plenty of real evidence to attest to the fact that inclusive education does not in any way limit people's abilities or participation. Rather, we do all that we can to promote participation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you too. Jalil, run us through, definitely there are some challenges in all of this. So run us through quickly some of the challenges with the implementation of
so it starts with leadership. So political will to, put resources at the disposal of, schools. So generally, there's the resource constraint. And so we are asking government to, push in money into inclusive education. We will also talk about the issue about leadership in schools. So if a headmaster or a headmistress decide not to admit a child, who has a special educational needs, like a child with, who is blind or a child who is deaf, that is definitely a problem. Then we have the issue of teachers and then class size. So you are asking teachers to support a child in a classroom. Meanwhile, the class size we are talking about is maybe 150, maybe 120, 100. That's a lot for a teacher, to be able to support. So we need more special educational needs coordinators in the classroom. Talking about parents, parents are very significant when it comes to implementation of inclusive education. So if you have a parent who has a child without disability in the classroom and decides that because there's another child with disability in the classroom, they're going to withdraw
your child from the school.
That's a problem. That's a big challenge.
Yeah.
And so we have many issues. And then talking about peers who are in the same classroom who are stigmatizing, bullying, who are, making, other children feel uncomfortable, calling them names. Look, there are many children who have dropped out just because of this. They don't feel comfortable. And then the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure in the school. So there are some toilets that are not good for, learners with disability. They can't make it to school because if they are not comfortable, always they go to, the school and the toilet facilities are not good. They won't make it. So we are talking about plethora of challenges, and we are asking that all hands on deck. That will be the only way we can make sure inclusive education happens.
That's great. Nanama, let's come to practical strategies or practices. Exactly what can be done in relation to the schools implementing all of this. These are very dire challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think in Jalil talking about the challenges, he's also preferred the solutions as well, I must say. So to add on to what he said, so actually if schools are a bit more conscious in ensuring that these challenges are addressed, will make our schools inclusive enough. So just to add that, one of the key, components of education is the teacher. When a teacher is able, most of us who have, good memories of school, most probably is because of a teacher. And most of the time, because it's our formative years, most of us remember our class 1 teachers and, the impact that they made and how they made school so enjoyable for you. So it means that the teacher must be trained. Continuous development for these teachers is very key to ensure that they are aware of inclusive education principles and practices so that they'll be able to imbibe it into their teaching, their pedagogy, whenever they are dealing with the learners. We're also talking about accessibility. So we are talking about how assess physical accessibility.
Yeah.
So when a student comes in clutches or with wheelchair, how accessible do we have to carry the child to the classroom? And the playground, every aspect of the school must be accessible to students with disability.
Yeah.
So it's not just a classroom. We are talking about, because at that stage, we should know that children are very emotional. They have emotional needs. So the fact that they can access the classroom, but when it's playtime, they cannot easily move to the playground. They cannot easily move to the canteen.
Yeah.
They cannot easily move to the assembly hall. That is also something that needs to be addressed. We're also talking about the fact that learning materials must be in accessible formats, so that if a child has visual impairment and all textbooks are in reading formats that is only accessible to persons who are sighted, what happens to the visually impaired child? So it must be brailled, audio materials. So we have to be very conscious and intentional in ensuring that the school is ready to receive every child, irrespective of the disability. And then what we call the universal design learning. That's a learning approach that uses all different formats, different representations, because children learn through different formats. So there are times that we need to do play, there are times we need to do visuals, there are times we need to, engage role play and all that. So the teacher must be taught, or the school system must be taught, must be in a way that can accommodate all this. And it will be amazing how children learn differently. Once again, what we entreat the schools to do is to have an individualized educational plan. So your plan will be different from JD's, it will be different from mine. Probably I come to school late, and a teacher should be able to know why I come to school late. Probably I have to go and sell to support the family before I come. Probably Jalil is taking care of a sick mother at home before he comes to school. Probably because you also have your own specialized need. So the teacher having this plan would, understand the unique needs of each child and be able to tailor teaching to such children. So, and then Jalil talked about leadership. In fact, sometimes not just having the political will of leadership, we're also even talking about how inclusive is leadership. So we want to see teachers with special needs being part of leadership. So that it encourages. Prof talked about leadership as in student leadership. Now we are pushing for the fact that, why should head prefect be boy and then assistant be a
girl.
It should be open for both boys and girls. We should
true.
make it in such a way that a child with special needs can stand at the university level, at the second cycle level, and the primary level. In one of the TVS schools, one girl with special needs, she actually said that I want to be the class prefect.
Right.
And, you know, she had intellectual disability. They understood it and said, okay, they accommodated her. And believe you me, according to the teacher, she's doing so well. When it's time for her to take her assignment, the books, in fact, she gives you 5 minutes. If it's not ready, she's taking it.
Oh, wow.
And they laugh about it. So we need to put in a lot of measures, some of these, so during the teaching. And then again, one key area is the assessment or evaluation, or what you call examination. So what accommodation do we have for them so that Jelly will need 2 hours for a practical work?
That's true.
I have a special need.
Yeah.
I probably might need 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah.
Some might need, so it's just the extra effort that we need to go, that we need to put in place. And then we alert WAEC, we alert CTVET, who are the examinable bodies that, but before they come in with that external examination and all these accommodation, reasonable accommodation that will be made for students, it means that we as the teachers must also put some of these in place that, okay, so Jelly will definitely go and write exams, and Jelly has this difficulty. We need to start making sure that we prepare Jelly towards external examination. So this is very much doable for us so that we don't leave any child behind, including children with special needs.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but then before we go, I want to take your final remarks. Professor Hayford, I want you to kindly, final remarks on this. What does the future hold in relation to inclusion for education? The Ministry of Education and its agencies, final remarks on that, and then we move on.
All said and done, there is hope for inclusion because the society, if you look around, our society is inclusive. There's no way we have developed a community and indicated that those with special needs have this section of the community, and those who don't have this section. You don't go to the bank and find a place demarcated for those with disabilities and other places for those who don't have disability. And so there is. But the only thing is that there's a need for change of mind.
Yeah.
Ghanaians must change their minds.
Okay.
Entrench cultural beliefs and practices will not lead us anywhere. We need to begin to appreciate that, look, disability and needs are extension of humanity. There's no way you will have perfect society where everybody is that model of person who has no need. And therefore, we need to change our mindset and we need to support the system to grow. So I believe that there is hope for us.
All right, Professor Hayford, thank you so much for your time this morning. Nanama and Jalil, the final remarks. Civil society in general, what does the future hold briefly?
For us, it is inclusion now. We cannot delay it because all learners must contribute to national development. So inclusion now.
Nanama.
And for us in education, I think that is a place where we are preparing children for the place of work. So when we get it right with education, get everyone on board, make sure that everyone understands, when they move out of that space, they'll be able to function well.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. This has been an eye-opening conversation. My guests have been Nanama Mensah, who is the Deputy Director and Head Diversity and Inclusive Education Unit, Ghana TVET Service, and Jalil Odum, Executive Director, Inclusion Ghana, and we're also joined via Zoom, Professor Samuel K. Hayford, Department of Special Education, University of Education, Winneba. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And this is where we end this conversation. We have some more conversations coming your way, so continue to stick and stay with us.